there is some correlation with PO1 and some PO8. This course has got with so like that, make a high level matrix known as a program articulation matrix. Next step, for every course, list down the CEOs, the course outcomes, list all the CEOs, and each CEO of every course is mapped to a PO. And here in the right side, in addition to the PO, you can add the PSOs also. Please understand, the PSO or the program specific outcome is only it's the same as a PO. The only thing, it is specific to your department. So you can maybe have PSO1 here, PSO2 here, PSO3 and generally you can give a scale. 3 means high correlation, 2 is medium correlation, 1 is weak correlation, and dash is a don't care condition, means there is no correlation, 0. So like that you can do it for each and every course. So both these matrices are very important. This is a course articulation matrix. I'm repeating, this is a course articulation matrix where I have listed the course outcomes of each and every course and mapped to the POs and the PSOs. This is a program articulation matrix where all the courses as a whole have been listed and each of them have been mapped to one or more of the POs and the PSO. These two have to be done ab initio or at the initial stage. Now, coming to the, I will first give this example and then go to the Bloom's taxonomy. Now, we saw a course outcome some time back where the author of this course has only done the author of this course has the only thing he or she has done is he has taken the syllabus, converted the syllabus into the course outcome or edited it and just put understand. So this is a very poor course. Now let us see a good, nicely written course outcome. Please take a minute and go through this. Please take a minute and go through this. So here, if you see from understand, here it's a much better written CEO. This is for some civil engineering course called strength of materials, but let us see the various this thing. First you have, the first one is apply in some specific context. The second one is analyze certain things so as to be able to do some designing. Third one is designing certain things using certain components. Fourth one is conducting experiments. Fifth one is preparing laboratory reports. So now if you see this 5 CEOs, it has nothing to do with the syllabus. Maybe there is some correlation with the syllabus, but as a whole, once you do this strength of materials course, you can apply this law, the various laws into this context. You can analyze various elements to arrive at some design parameters. You can design certain things using certain theoretical concepts and principles. You can conduct experiments and analyze and evaluate and also prepare certain reports. So this is telling you what a student can do after the course. So the student can prepare reports. The student can do some experiments. The students can design certain things. can analyze. So this has nothing. This is a very well written CEO. Now, if you just see the old one, understand. There is a sea change. There is a huge improvement in the COs or the course outcomes that are given here. And as a result, how is it happening? Because you are using very clear action verbs and specific learning statements. The other case, the action verbs are of low order. Here we are using higher order action verbs, and there are clear learning statements. In the other case, it was not a learning statement. It is only the content of the syllabus of the first unit or the second unit or the third unit and so on. So it was very poor that way. Now, there is a clear action verb and there is a learning statement. That brings me to the Bloom's taxonomy. Of course, many of you know this, but for the sake of instruction, I'm just quickly going through it. Ideally, learning should move from lower order action verbs, lower order learning to higher order learning. Lower order is just under remembering, just trying to memorize. From memorizing, you want to go into an understanding level, but even understanding is slightly at a lower level. The idea is you want to give your students the skill set so that they are able to apply. They are able to apply the concepts that they have learned in various contexts. Different contexts, you can apply the concepts. You are giving them the possibility to what should I say? To analyze. Okay, and then you are giving him the capability to evaluate, synthesize, create. So you are moving from lower order to higher order learning, starting from remembering, going on to understanding, going on to applying, then analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So this is the Bloom's order, and ideally your course outcome should be more, what should I say, heavy on having higher order Bloom's taxonomy levels like evaluation, analyzing, applying, and so on, rather than understanding and remembering. Sometimes some understanding and remembering is inevitable that you cannot wish away. But having said that, try to have less and have more of apply, analyze, evaluate, create. In fact, some of the better good action verbs are listed here. This could include compile, identify, create, create a business plan, analyze a balance sheet, design a print advertisement, right? Create, utilize, apply, demonstrate, prepare, use, compute, discuss, predict, assess, compare, rate, critique, outline, evaluate. These are better, what should I say, action verbs as compared to the first CO that I showed. And obviously, as a result of this, your Bloom's, you're going at a higher level of the Bloom's taxonomy. And if you see here, all the action verbs are definitely much better, right? They are definitely better, and you will see apply, analyze, design, conduct are all higher levels of taxonomy. Now coming to, so this is the curriculum aspect. In the curriculum, you are first of all having the curriculum with the COs, the course outcomes. You are having the curriculum in such a way that the course outcomes are towards higher Bloom's taxonomy levels, which means that the exercises, the classes, the teaching learning methodology, the teaching learning philosophy, the pedagogy will focus on doing these kind of activities rather than just reproducing. Now coming to the third aspect, that is the evaluation. Evaluation is also very, very important. Teaching methodology, evaluation, etc. are also very, very important in that respect, because These are also very much needed we have to map the CEO, the evaluation tools also to the POs. So you need to have, if you are considering a PO, that is teamwork. Teamwork is an important PO. What are the assessment tools that you are using where students can work in teams? Whether they can submit a term paper in working in a group, whether they can do a product presentation working in the team, whether they can design a marketing communication strategy working in a team. So you have to also ensure that the evaluation instruments, the assessment instruments are also aligning towards the various POs. Ethics. Ethics is a very important dimension. Leadership, another dimension. How are you bringing out these attributes out? How are you testing the ethical dimensions in the course? Are there ways to exercises or assessment methodologies that are able to do? If at all you have an assessment methodology, how are you ensuring that there is no plagiarism? How are you ensuring that there is no copying? All these are being, part of the evaluation also will have to be mapped to the assessment tools. Okay, I already taught these things. So as mentioned earlier, we build a course articulation matrix where all the course outcomes of all the courses in your program are mapped to the POs. All the courses as a whole are also mapped to the POs. Here it is more of a program articulation matrix, and all the assessments of the course are also mapped to the POs. What kind of assessments? You may have tests, assignments, lab exercises, project presentations, trainings. You have to build rubrics. Even projects you can build rubrics. So for a marketing project, you can have, these are the rubrics that are there. For a finance project, these are the rubrics. For a IS, information systems project, these are the rubrics that you can have. So you can have different types of rubrics for each kind of projects. And you can have, suppose I'm giving you an example. Some of your students are going for fully industry projects, where the industry partner is also evaluating. You can sit with that industry representative and build some kind of rubrics which are mapping. So you can divide your projects, certain academically oriented projects, industry oriented projects, and so on. So I can tell you what is happening in our department of a computer science department. So there are some projects that are very research heavy, in the sense that these students want to go for higher studies. They are focusing on getting some good journal publications. So they typically go for a project that involves a research kind of an investigation into a new problem or a new issue. So that is a pure research oriented academic project. There are some students which go to a company and the company will give a maybe not a very great project. The company will say, okay, you build an app for this, doing this. So those are industry projects. So we can have different rubrics for research oriented projects, which generally the outcome is a publication. We can have a different set of rubrics for industry projects where the outcome is some development of a technology solution that is being used by the company. Now, many MBA students, all of us know, there is a summers. Between the first and the second year, they go for a summer project. Obviously, the summer project is mainly, it is an administrative requirement. So students go where they get a project. But having said that, in some cases, the projects are all not that very inspiring. The company will just, the company may not give them much time or resources or take much care of them. Such possibilities are also there. But then it is how you make the best use of that project. Because more than, getting so much out of it, you get a feel of the industry. You understand the ambience of the industry. You understand the dynamics. So that is probably the most important learning. I remember 20 years back, I got a very good internship. I'm talking when I was doing my bachelor's, I got a wonderful internship in Hindustan Aeronautics. But you know, it's a great company. It's a national defense company and stuff like that. But all those people are so busy, so they will, when we go, me and my friends will go. They'll say, okay, go to that person and meet him. When I go and meet him, he'll say, okay, today I'm very busy. Tomorrow you come. The whole day is lost. The next day we wait on him. He'll give 10-20 minutes. Okay, you study this, read this manual. So you may think, oh, I'm not being so, my talent is not being utilized. Such things happen. Let me be very honest with you. Such things definitely happen, but still you get a feel of the organization. What are the dynamics? What kind of work assignments are happening? How ambiences? All that is a real learning. The process is absolutely very, very important rather than the outcome in such cases. So all these you can have different rubrics, different measured methods to evaluate. Okay, now I'm now coming to the how to actually do like an exercise, how to map to a CEO. So this is an NBA. Where is this thing? Just give me a minute. Okay, so this is just an example that is given by NBA on how to kind of write proper CEOs, how to write effective course outcomes, how to kind of brainstorm and come at a proper CEO. So there is a topic called mixed proportioning, where it is a process of mixing some concrete ingredients based on certain parameters, and there are a lot of variance in terms of aggregates, admixtures, and cements. So you want to teach your students to understand the complexity of making some M40 grade concrete, but there are different conditions. You have to be able to do it in different weather conditions. So this is the basic premise of the topic. Now, how do you look into how it is being mapped? Suppose you are writing a CEO, able to understand mix proportioning techniques for field that is your CEO. Now, how do you take the CEO able to understand mix proportioning techniques for various field applications? What is it mapping to? You can look into the list of POs. The first one is knowledge. The second one is analysis. Third one is experimentation. Fourth one is solution, something like that. So you write a CEO. Immediately when you write a CEO, you look into the list of POs. I'll quickly go to that slide. Wait, give me a minute. I have written a CEO, okay, to provide a proper whatever mix of concrete using in various weather conditions. So I now scan the POs. Does it involve applying knowledge? Yes. Does it involve problems? Yes. There are different mixtures of concrete which have to be mixed in different proportions. Is there a need to develop a solution? Yes. Is it a complex problem? May not be so much of a complex problem. It is a fairly easy problem. Is it involving any modern tools? No. Is it having any ramification on the society? Yes. Is it sustainable in nature? Absolutely, because you need to have sustainable technologies, especially in concrete. Is there an ethical dimension in the course? No. Is there some exercises that I can give the students in teamwork? Yes. Is there communication? Not much. Is there an aspect of project management? May not be there. Is there scope for life learning? So what I have done is, any example of a CEO, you look into the list of POs. I'm just taking this NBA as an example. Look into the list and understand, okay, is this relevant? Is this relevant? Is this applicable? Is this pliable? Can I? So I just took an example. I just took an example of this thing. Now, let me take a different example. Other than mix proportioning, let me just think of something. Let us take a business plan competition. A student is going for a business plan or a B plan competition. Is the B plan competition applying the knowledge? Yes. Is there a problem to be analyzed? Yes. Is there a solution to be given? Absolutely. There are different solutions and different alternatives that are there. Is there an investigation to be done? Yes. Is there a tool usage? Maybe for a B plan, you're not using any software. If you are using a capstone game, yes, then tool usage is there. Is there any ramification to the society? Maybe it depends upon the topic of the business plan. Is there any aspect of sustainability? If there is a component of sustainability, yes. Is there an ethical dimension? Yes or no? Is there teamwork or group work? Yes or no? Is there project management issues? Yes. Is there lifelong learning? Maybe no. So like that, same way you take an MBA program PO. Are you applying knowledge? Are you fostering critical thinking and analytical reasoning? Are you having leadership? Are you having teamwork to achieve goals? Are you accepting responsibility? So like that, you are in a position to, actually in a position to take a CEO and see if it is aligning with each of these POs. Like that, individually, this is how you have to do your curricular mapping. So this example is some ability to understand. This is the NBA example. Ability to understand mixed proportioning for field applications. As mentioned to you, each CEO, you look into it and see how you are able to map. You see, in this example, I able to understand mixed proportioning techniques for field application. Are you applying any science engineering fundamentals for this problem? The answer is no. It is only some sort of proportioning techniques or some skill based. So there is not so much of knowledge to be applied. It is more or less the formula is known and you are trying to apply. So like that, each CEO you can critically analyze. You can critique it and see how it is being mapped to a specific PO. So again, this CO3, it is not, you can go through this, it is not actually mapping much to PO2. So this is a critique of here, the problem analysis. The CO3 is able to apply mixed proportion principles. Now, to design a concrete mix for field application. So already there is no problem. The problem has been solved. But the idea is to apply the principles and design a mix. Here there is not much of a problem, so as to speak. So it's not mapping. Like that, for each thing, there is some sort of mapping. Now here, in this case, CO3 is very much mapping to PO3 because CO3 is analyzing characteristics of mixed constituents and designing. Here there is a design and design. PO3 is related to design and development of solutions. So there is definitely a mapping. So this is how you should do the mapping. Now, so the first step is you list down your POs and your PSOs. You may decide, I don't know, depending upon the program. If you are running an engineering college, you have to take those 12 POs and 2-3 PSOs. If you are an MBA department, you can decide, I will take these 7 or 8, I will take these 10 POs. If you are an BCom or commerce or BBA or BSc, you have to take a separate set of POs. So you find, first step is you analyze and outline your POs. Then take your entire course. You may have 20 courses, 30 courses, 40 courses. For each course, you take the CO out. Then do a mapping. Take each CO. CO1, is it mapping to PO1? Yes, tick. CO1, 2, is it mapping to PO1? So CO1 may map to 5 POs, PO1, 3, 5, 6. Like that, that is the way you arrive at this kind of matrix. Now, if you see this, analysis of structures is only mapping to 2 POs. All other POs, it is not mapping. Of course, the PSO is not listed here, so I'm not able to tell you about that. But the first course is only having 2, CO1 is only mapping to 2 POs, CO2 is also mapping only to 2 POs. But if you see this course, environmental engineering, it is mapping to several POs. But one rule of thumb that should be there is that, the very important thing is that, if you have said 12 POs and 2 PSOs, that means there are 14 POs/PSOs. All the POs should have been at least touched once. I hope you are trying to understand. So if you see this now, PO11, there is only one course that is coming there, right? Just give me a minute. Hello? Actually, ma'am. Okay. Yeah, so one thing we have to understand is that at least one place this should have got be there. Now, if you see PO11 is only one course here is having something to do with that. So we have to ensure that all the POs and PSOs are touched at least once. There should be some mapping of every PO somewhere. It may happen that PO11, what is PO11? This is not moving. Project management and finance. Yeah, that is why. So many courses are there. None of them are touching project management and finance. But finally, when the student is coming to major project phase, here at least there is some aspect of project management. So you should ensure that each and every PO is at least covered once. In some place, at least it should have been covered. Obviously, some POs will be very heavy, but some POs may not be so heavy, and accordingly, we have to analyze this. Okay, now coming to the attainment. So At the now we have done the first step in the curriculum. We have written a proper curriculum. We have given the COs. We have mapped all the COs to the POs and PSOs. We have printed the syllabus book. All these things are documented very clearly, and so on. Now, next step. What is the next step is that now you take the course, you teach the course, the delivery of the course is happening, all that is going on very well. You have several quizzes, you have several assignments, you have for every question you are mapping to a CO. So if you are having a quiz of say 10, you have conducted 10 quizzes. Each quiz had say 5 questions. So 10 into 5, 50 questions are there. Each question has to be mapped to a CO, right? Similarly, you have a periodical test. There are say 20 questions. 20 questions, all 2 marks, 40 marks. Each question has to be mapped to a CO. So like that, you take all your evaluation instruments, find out for every CEO across all the evaluation for every student how much they have achieved. You can fix a kind of a minimum value. You can say that my target is 50%. That means 50% at least should have attained this. Should have been able to do this. 50% of the students should have been able to attain the CO. You can put this. This is called a target. Similarly, you can put a threshold. A threshold means threshold is like a pass mark. So you can decide that the threshold of this course is 50%. That means at least 50% one student should have got in that CO. So if you had say CO1, maybe there were 5 questions in the first periodical, there were 10 questions in the second periodical, there were 20 questions in the end semester, there were 3 questions in the quiz. All that, maybe it came to say 300 marks. Out of that 300 marks, 50%, 150 is the threshold. And the target is you have at least 50% of the students matching this threshold. So like that, you will be able to get the attainment for the course. Now, there are different rules of thumb, but generally people go on improving the threshold and the target. Normally, people start with both 50 and 50. Pass mark or threshold mark is 50 for every CO. Pass mark, number of students, the target is also 50. Both are 50. Generally, people start. But once you finish the course, you get feedback. If there is, you may get a situation where you have got 80% attainment for CO1. You have got 70% for CO2. You have got 90% for CO3. Then you can decide next year I can slightly improve the. First, you have to improve the threshold. Then you can decide whether even the target can be improved. So the next year you can decide, I'll go for a threshold of 60 and a target of 60. Then you find out the attainment. And like that, you are able to get the attainment for every course of the program. All together, you combine all the attainments of the course, you will get the attainment of the program as a whole. So this is a very important statistic. Of course, I cannot go into the details. I've just given you the overall perspective of how it is done. How it is done is because for every CO, you have an attainment for that course. That attainment takes all the CO questions in all the evaluation instruments and how much of students have attained that. That is the kind of logic. So you get a course outcome attainment at the end of the course. Based on that course attainment, okay, CO1 you have attained, CO2 you have attained, CO3 you have not attained. Why you did not attain? You can analyze, you can do analytics, you can do investigation. Why I could not attain this CO? What were the reasons? Now here you can have multi-dimensional analytics. Like, suppose you are taking a basic marketing management. There are 2 classes. Two different faculty are teaching marketing management for one class, A batch and B batch. Each course you can find out what the attainment is. Of course, one issue that you have to ensure is that since the course is the same and two different teachers are teaching it, the correction should be somehow integrated. Meaning, maybe the first periodical exam, if there are say 50 marks, 25 marks for all both the batches should be corrected by one faculty. The remaining 25 marks for the of the test should be corrected by the other faculty. So there is some sort of synergy there. Otherwise, it will become a problem. Then a normalization is needed. So you will be able to analyze across the board, both the classes together, what the attainment is, where the attainment is. So it could happen that in one class, CO2 was not attained, but in the other class, CO2 was attained. Now, why did it happen? Probably, maybe because the first teacher did not properly, somehow was not able to convey the course properly to that concept properly. So, like that, you get multi-dimensional analytics are possible. That is very important from the CO attained. And as I mentioned, once the semester or the trimester ends, you get the entire attainment for the entire program as a whole. You get that attainment also. That is PO and PSO attainment. Okay. This is not, I already taught this. So attainment analysis is very, very important at a course level, because once you get the attainment of a course, when you have an attainment of the entire program, then you have it is important at an individual course level. At a course level, it is important. At a program, as a whole program, it is important. At a college level, it is important. So attainment analysis is very, very important. And that is the essence of OBE, because from the attainment only you will be able to get the feedback. So all attainment analysis will point towards continuous improvement either in the course delivery, assessment, and curriculum. So whether the teaching learning process, you get feedback of the curriculum, you get feedback of the evaluation or the assessment. So somehow I finished a little ahead of schedule. I don't want to take this example. I think I finished a little ahead of schedule. Anyway, we can use that for more questions if you have. I'll be happy to answer more questions today.
There are some questions already come in the chat box, sir. Maybe.
Okay, madam. I'll just look into that. I don't know. I somehow timed it. Went finished a little ahead of schedule.
That's fine, sir. That's fine, sir. I felt it was the elaborate explanation.
Yeah. No, there is a general question on the mapping between the CEOs and the syllabus. See, as I mentioned, many people make this mistake of simply taking the syllabus and putting it to the CEO. That is not the meaning. See, it can happen that suppose you have 5 units in your course. The first and second unit, if you study and you give some sort of exercise, you will be able to do certain things. So generally the CEO is on what a student will be able to do, what are the knowledge, what are the attributes, what are the skills that a student can do after getting the course. So it should not map to the syllabus. Maybe it could happen that the first two units are combinedly will give you some knowledge, some attribute that you can do something. That is the meaning. So there is no one-to-one mapping. It can happen in certain cases. See, there are some courses, in Malayalam we say aviyal. You know what an aviyal is, right? It's a mix of, in Kerala, people from Kerala will know what an aviyal is. Aviyal is a staple food of Kerala. When you go to a marriage anywhere in Kerala, you will get this aviyal. It's a mix of all the vegetables. Every vegetable is mixed. So similarly, there are some courses which are mixed with so many different what should I say, different modules, that modules have no relation to each other. In such cases, the syllabus will directly map to the CEO, because first module is A, first CEO will be A, the second module is B, CEO will be B, third module is C, CEO will be exactly C. we can't do anything because the course is like that. But most courses are not like that. Most courses, there is some sort of logical relationship where you combine two, where you get some knowledge skill set. Now, can I just share my slide? Can I just share the slide again? 1 minute. Are you able to see the slide? Is the slide visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, share. See, this is the example of the CEO that I showed you. Now, here there is no relation to the syllabus. The first unit is applying laws of physics to compute different types of response. What is that? Let me read it. Apply laws of physics to compute different types of response in the given materials. There is no syllabus, there is no unit. It is just applying certain things. So it may be a CEO that encompasses the entire course. You get from all the units, you get this knowledge. The second one is analyze structural elements for different force systems to compute design parameters. This probably also will not be part of a syllabus. It may happen that, I would think that structural elements may be one unit, force systems may be a different unit, but you are able to use analyze structural elements for different force systems and computing design parameters. So just think like that. Maybe structural elements is second unit, force systems is third unit, design parameters is fourth unit. Okay, I will repeat. If you look at the second course outcome, assume that structural elements is unit 2, force system is unit 3, and design parameters is unit 4. So you have got a knowledge, a skill set of analyzing structural elements for different force systems to compute design parameters. So what has actually happened is you have actually having a CO that combines the knowledge of 3 different units to give you a kind of a takeaway. So that is my answer. Next question. So, next question is CEO mapped to many POs has a lot of responsibility on evaluation and critical. PO mapping CEO at lower level in most of the courses you are coming. See, I think we should not think whether the CEO will map to less or more. We have to do an honest mapping. So it really doesn't matter whether it maps to 5 or 6 or 10. You should be honestly able to do it. But as mentioned earlier, the more the number of mapping, the more pressure on evaluation. So one thing you can do is, in certain cases, there may be a CEO that has a very weak mapping to a PO. Means there is a very minor mapping to a PO, a very weak mapping, maybe one. If you want to don't want to complicate things, that one you can ignore. Wherever the CEO has a very weak mapping to a PO, maybe you can take a decision to ignore it at times. That is the only thing you can do. Otherwise, you have to ensure that every CEO is mapping to as many POs as possible. At least one, every PO should be covered at least once. That is very, very important. In the mapping of CO and PO3 means CO, if I take CO2, it is mapping to PO3. That's the only meaning of it. Any rule for approximate equal
sir,
weight?
I'm asking, please. I'm asking that in that mapping, you put it in 3, 2 like that. In PO and CO mapping,
yeah.
In the matrix, you put 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2 like that.
Yeah. I will tell you what. I'll tell you what then. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. That means 3 means strong mapping. 2 means medium mapping. 1 means low mapping. This is the meaning. So if CO1 and PO3 have got a 3 written there, that means it is a strong mapping. Again, this is a level that you are defining. 3 is strong mapping, 2 is medium mapping, 1 is weak mapping. In some cases, 1 and all people don't really bother me, but if there is a slight mapping, you can put it. It doesn't affect so much the bottom line. But 3 means strong mapping. But this again is a kind of a, what should I say? It's a kind of an approximation that is done. Especially from an accreditation point of view, it's easier to use levels rather than percent. It is better to use levels better than percentages, because percentage calculations are highly complicated. So it is better to use 3, 2, 1. 3 is strong mapping, 2 is medium mapping, 1 is weak mapping.
So, can we have a 0, like if there is
No,
mapping at all?
wherever there is a dash, no, it is a 0. That means no mapping. Dash means 0. It's a don't care condition, because it is not, there is no mapping. Any rule, another question is, any rule for approximate equal weightage to be maintained for each PO? COs mapped 10 times mapping per PO. I am not able to understand this question. It is Mr. Jitesh, Professor Jitesh Parmar. Can you directly talk and ask? I'm not able to understand your question.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Actually, the question is, say, for example, there are total, say, we have 100 CO. All these 100 CO need to be equally mapped 10 times to 10 CO?
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
Nothing like that.
Okay.
See, it will so happen that, can I just share the slide again? If we have time, I'm going to share the slide again. Just give me a minute.
No issue, sir.
See, if you see this, if you see this, this is a typical course articulation matrix. You will find out that PO1, that is knowledge, is lot of mapping will be there. It is inevitable. We cannot help it. But if you see PO11, that is project management, has very little. This is how every course, every syllabus, whatever be the program, whether it is an MBA, BBA, BCA, MCA, BTech, BE, BCom, it will be like this only. Some POs will have very lot of mapping, some will not have, because it depends upon the nature of the PO. Similarly, if you take ethics also, maybe very few courses will have ethical, some sort of ethical dimension being checked. So this is typically how your mapping will look like. Some POs will have many courses mapping, some will not have, very few. But the idea is this column should not be blank. Somewhere in your curriculum you should have some mapping. Otherwise that PO has to be completely removed. That means you are not at all being able to do it. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing and wait for questions. I don't think there are any more questions in the chat. If there is a lot of time, please feel free to ask.
Yes, so we'll wait for some more time, because
Yeah.
last session somebody asked a question while the resource person left. Actually, wait for some participants. If you have any more questions, you may please either type in the chat box or you may ask it directly.
Sir, where we get it, the P1 to P12, where we get it that? It's a program outcome, na?
No, that is what I was trying to tell you, sir, yesterday. This NBAs, these 12 POs are generally fairly universal. It can be used for any program. Only thing, wherever engineering comes, you just change it to management or biotechnology knowledge. My personal understanding is that these 12 POs are fairly universal, and you can be adopted by anybody. But if I showed you yesterday, the MBA had a different this thing. So you can decide out of these 12, this is 12 is a superset. You can decide to take this many depending upon the nature. See, suppose there is a lot of importance for leadership and all, you can add that as a PO. So there is no universal law, but this 12 POs are
necessary. Is it necessary? I have to keep the 12 PO.
no, not necessary. It depends. If you're running a big bachelor's in engineering program, you definitely need to keep all the 12. Well, what discipline are you from, sir?
MBA.
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 You can take a subset of the 12. You can decide to use 5 or 6 or 10 depending
Where
upon
I
your
get
course.
this source, sir? The PO
Pardon,
source.
sir?
Where I should get the.
I have already sent this slide to the organizers. They will send you all my slides, including tomorrow's presentation. I will send it to you. This is available on the NBA website. You just say Google PO, you will get this 12 this thing. It is a superset. You can for an MBA program, you can decide to adopt maybe 7 or 8 of them, and if you want to add 1 or 2 POs also, you can do that. I have also given a sample of 5 POs that were taken from this is what I believe St. Gitt's College is using. I can show you that. Give me a minute, sir. St. Gitt's College MBA department is using these 5 POs for MBA. They are I think this is what they are using. Again, it is based, it is similar. It is a subset of these 12 POs, except for one additional thing. I think this value-based leadership is different. Am I right, madam? Yeah. So it is a subset of that. So they have just used this. So there is no universal this thing. Madam, where did you adopt this from? You can talk. You're mute, ma'am. You're mute.
Okay. So actually, I'm not in the process of the PO thing. I think we adopted from the NBA thing.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It is adopted from NBA only. So you can use a subset of those 12, or if you want to add something also, it doesn't matter. If your program of MBA has a huge focus on leadership, you can add leadership to be a PO. It doesn't matter. If you have, say, 5 or 6 courses where leadership is there, stuff like that, you can accordingly change that. There's another question. With your exposure to ABET and ABET USA and UK accreditation processes, what are the modern evolving tools are not generally used by Indian evaluation systems? So I have not been, I have some idea about ABET, but to be very honest, I have not gone through this process. I have attended some training programs and I have worked with some people who have gone for ABET and all, but I have not gone through this whole process. But one thing I have understood about the ABET, this thing is, the basic difference is that, you know, in all these Indian evaluation systems like NAC and NBA relies on expert faculty. So if you I have been part of UGC committee and all. So they look at some experts. They have a mix of both NBA and NAC. When they bring a committee, they form a committee for inspection or evaluation. They have a mix. There is a mix of subject experts and a mix of people who are just 1 minute. Sir, ഞാനൊരു ടോക്കിലാണ്, ഞാൻ തിരിച്ചു വിളിക്കാം. So there is a mix of what is that? Subject experts and people who are slightly adept in administration, means who have been holding administrative positions like HOD or principal or dean or vice chancellor and so on and so forth. So there is a mix. So that's how Indian accreditation. But in ABET, it's a slightly different ball game. What they do is they do not send any expert. They just ask the professional society to send the expert. So if you are going to computer science department, they will ask the computer science teaching association to send experts. If they are going to a mechanical department, they'll tell American Society for Mechanical Engineer to send the expert. So it's a little different ball game. And the basic difference between Indian and Western accreditation systems is in India, there is a huge focus on documentation because we don't have a very good culture of keeping documentation. In America, it is very different. Everything is so highly documented that it's very so highly documented that they mostly look at the outcomes. It is very outcomes focused. Now, I will give you a simple example. Suppose you have an alumni. Sir, your student studied somewhere. After he completed his graduation, he went for a job. 1 or 2 years, you had some contact with him. After 5 years, you don't know where he is. Maybe his old email ID doesn't work. His phone might have changed. He might have moved to some other country and all. We are not able to track that level of information, to be very honest with you. But in at least in ABET and all, you have to have the data. Where your alumni was 10 years back, some alumni of yours, what he is doing today, you need to have that data. That is the thing. So, but it is easy because there the system is, documentation system is well defined and established. Now, if you have lived in the US, if you have a social security number of a person, you know the entire horoscope of that person. I mean, everything is so well documented and collated and consolidated. The entire jadagam, the entire what should I say, the horoscope of the person you can get from one social security number. We have not come to that level. You look at an Aadhaar level, Aadhaar may not be linked to the PAN card. A PAN card may not be linked to the bank account. Maybe PAN card is linked to one bank account, but you may have another bank account somewhere else. So there is that back, what should I say, what do you call, the found background database connectivity has not happened. That is why we are it's very different. There it is, everything is transparent, everything has to be available. That is the situation, the basic difference, and you have to have the data. You cannot escape with anything. So it's a little more tough and rigorous. Our own MBA college, I know our Amrita School of Business here in Coimbatore, I think we got this AACSB, American International Accreditation. If I remember right, we have been working on it for more than 5 years. 5 years to 6 years, we have been working on that American accreditation because more from a marketing and a branding perspective, I think only 10 or 15 business schools in India have got this AASCB accreditation. And I know I didn't lead those efforts. I was helping them on and off, but I know that this process started 6 or 7 years back. And we got it only last year in 2019, only we were AACSB accredited. So it's a very difficult process. It's not easy. That much I know. Even though I didn't lead the process, I have some idea. I think, ma'am, there are no more questions. It's all.
Yes. Yeah.
Any more questions? Yeah, I'm free to take questions. Anybody can ask, no issues.
Participants, if you have any queries, may please put it forward now.
Sir, in some cases, the university itself has mapped the CO and PO. So, is there a necessity for the department to again do this?
No, in such cases you cannot do anything. You have to follow that because otherwise it will be in contravention to this thing. The university has mapped and given it. You cannot help it. You can only improve your evaluation methodology, your tools and assessment, and your teaching methodology to those. That's all you can do. You don't have that freedom, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, sir, I assume there are no more queries to come. So, shall we close the session, sir?
Sir,
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes.
sir, I have a small doubt in that. In that mapping, some expected and attainable. Can you explain that the proficiency of expected and proficiency of attainment?
No, as I mentioned, there is no see attainment calculation will give me it will take me another 2 hours to explain, but I will simply try to explain what it means.
Huh.
See, suppose you have a CO. That CO you are asking questions based on that CO in all your assessment, in your quiz, your periodical test, your end semester, your lab exercises, whatever be the case. Across the board, you have asked, say, all the quizzes, everything, you have maybe asked, say, 100 marks of that CO. All evaluations together. Okay. And you take that 100, this thing, 50 is the pass mark for that CO. Okay, that is the threshold. So CO1 is there in 100 marks of questions across quiz, periodical, everything together, and 50 is the mark of pass mark. That is the threshold, and at least 50% of the students should have crossed this 50 marks out of 100. That is the target. So you have fixed a target of 50 and 50. So if more than 50% of your students have got more than 50 marks in that CO, then that you can say that you have attained that CO. That is the meaning. That is how you get a attainment. Now you can even define that threshold and target. You can as you move. Generally we start with 50 and 50. As you move forward after 2 or 3 years of students passing out, you will find out that the teaching is effective, the students are getting good marks, your attainment level becomes 90-95%. Then you can think of first improving the threshold, that is a pass mark, and then improving the target thing. So for lab exercises, labs, generally speaking, students do better in labs than in theory. So generally you can start with a threshold of 60 and 60, threshold of 60 and target of 60. And then you can check the attainment. So there is no this thing at all. Then once you get an attainment, you can even define levels between 60 to 100, 60% to 100% is high attainment. That you can define. That is not universally told, but some places NBA recommends 0 to 40 level 1, 40 to 60 level 2, 60 to 100 level 3. This is one UG NBA rule of thumb. It is not mandatory, but this sometimes you follow.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I think, ma'am, there are no more questions. Can we wind up, ma'am?
Yes, sir, we'll wind it up. Okay. So thank you once again, sir, for the elaborate presentation on curriculum mapping. So I think we have one more session from you in coming days. With this session, we are closing for today. The first session tomorrow is scheduled at 9 a.m. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Bye.
The feedback link has been posted in the chat box. May please fill in your feedback. I hope everybody have received the link and done the feedback, filled the feedback. So tomorrow our session start at 9 a.m. Please be on time. Thank you. Thank you.